Hello everybody, hope you're having a great day and welcome back to another video on the channel. And in today's video, I want to talk about the new and most recent win rates that came out on the Wizard, and it is actually from Ratbeard. Now Ratbeard typically is the one who supplies us with the data, the win rates, the most queued schools and whatnot. And I gotta say, this time around, guys, it is pretty traumatizing. Like, I want you to just completely forget about anything that's meta before you view these win rates and whatnot. Because if you try to look at these win rates with a logical stance, you're just gonna give yourself a headache. So just a little fair warning here. If you're more on the casual end or whatever, of course, it's kind of whatever, but I will try my best to explain it in the video today. So this is within the last 14 days, within the last patch, which I believe was the patch where they nerfed Storm Owl. So that's that. So at number 1 here, we have Ice. Now, I have no idea what the hell is going on. Like, just by this metric alone, if you PvP at high or low level, this quite frankly makes no sense. Ice has been kind of like mid for a while now. It used to be like really bad, but it's been kind of like somewhere in the middle for a little bit now, with like dots getting a tad bit worse. But with the Twilight buff that happened in the last patch, I guess they are doing pretty well. And a lot of high-ranked people, like myself and a couple others, were saying that Ice is not a bad school, it's just the environment it's in, as in like you're getting dotted every round before the patch. It just could not thrive. Also at the higher ranks, generally there isn't that many Ices that queue, so the Ices that do queue, aren't terrible and generally know how to play it. But by no means did I or anyone expect Ice to be number 1 on the win rates. I would like not be surprised by like number 3 even, but number 1 is crazy. Okay, coming in at number 2, we have Death. Now, this is probably the most accurate the tier list is going to get. Death at number 2 hasn't really changed much over the patches and whatnot. Death actually got buffed this update with Poison, which is pretty insane. Death before this patch was like number 3. It went Balance, Fire, Death. And with this patch, since dots are a little worse and Ifrit is a little worse, I kind of figured Death would be a little better than Fire, so it'd be like Balance, Death, Fire, for example. I think what happened is the Fires generally just got so used to turning their brain off. Now that they have to think a little bit, they just aren't winning as much anymore. And also, Death getting buffed this update and dots getting worse, I think it's easier for a Death to like take down a Fire than it was in the last patch. So Death being number 2 here really comes as no surprise. Alright, number 3 on the list, we have Myth. Now, Myth is kind of a tricky one to rank, right? Because everyone knows Myth and Storm are like the 2 worst schools in the game right now. The thing with Myth is it plays so linear, reliable, and like predictably that you can beat most schools, right? And it's not fun, and it's certainly easy to counter, right? But if you just kind of like, I don't want to say like Q snipe or like selectively Q or whatever, it's pretty easy to rank up on a Myth, obviously, right? You could make that argument for any school. Another thing with Myth, just like Ice, is there's not really a lot of them generally. It's not a very popular school, so the people who do know how to play Myth typically do have a lot more success. I kind of figured Myth would be somewhere in the middle because the people who do know how to play Myth and whatnot, it's like they can win, but most people probably aren't gonna win. But seeing it at number 3, especially over like Fire, I am very, very surprised about that. Okay, next up we have Storm. Now, before I even talk about Storm, you're probably wondering, Liam, where is Balance, Life, and Fire? And those are the bottom 3 schools, which is strange because you would consider those like the top 3, top 4 schools, which we'll talk about a little later on in the video. But yeah, so at number 4 we have Storm, which is kind of strange because I think the last time Storm was this high in the list was like back when it was actually like playable and good and whatnot. I want to say, since it's still a little early into the patch, a lot of fires are probably queuing and a lot of the storms are just farming the fires. Me personally, I stream most of the time. It took me 8 days to get a fire. It was just 7 days there of balance, ice, and death on my storm. Now you could be like, oh Liam, people are just dodging you to not get you, or people are trying to get you or whatever. Because meanwhile this whole thing happened, I'm hearing people in Discord complaining about Bull, which is obviously really OP and whatnot, but like I didn't see any of these people in it took me 8 days to see a single fire on my storm. Absolutely insane. Other than that, the storm matchups are generally pretty bad, like ice versus storm, death versus storm are like nightmares, you know, balance versus storm is pretty annoying, and everything else is kind of like a 50-50, like the myth matchup, I would say. If you ask any high rank player what would be the 2 worst schools in the game to play right now, it would be myth and storm. So seeing it like number 4, kind of odd. Next up, we have balance at number 5. Now I have no idea who the heck is queuing balance, and I don't honestly, I don't understand it. And this is kind of where I think this is a troll, because none of this tier list makes sense at all. It really doesn't. It really doesn't, guys. So balance, the school that is incapable of losing, right, is somehow at number 5, and it's not in number 1 when it's been at number 1 and number 2 for like a year. Kind of odd, you know. And the only thing that changed is Judge got banned, which, I mean, it's a nerf, right? But it wasn't that impactful to make it go from 1 to 5, you know what I mean? And it's still the best school in the game, right? Like if you're a good player, you don't lose on this school. I queued a couple of balance games recently, and the only game I lost, I'm not even exaggerating or joking here, is when I forgot to pack my counters. That is the only game I lost, and that game came close, and that was against a high ranked person. The problem with balance is echoes give too much value, like on Chimera, and also swapping stuff is extremely disruptive via like Gearhead. It just has too much and it counters too much by being balanced itself. They don't even have to dual school or do anything. Okay, next up we have life. Now, balance and life are pretty much tied. I think that's what the brackets mean. It's like within like a percentage or whatever. Obviously, life has been pretty decent for a while now. Like if you ask anyone what the top 4 schools are, it would be like balance, death, life, fire, or something like that in that order. Interchangeable, but that'd be generally the top 4. So seeing life this low is concerning, especially that they just got buffed with Seraph. That new Seraph is insane. The only thing I can think of is maybe life wizards aren't jading as much, so they're not winning as much, or everyone is just timering life wizards now because they're tired of jading until they put the heal cap in the game. So that way they essentially can't actually win, and it won't show up on the win rates if they're just all getting timered. Because it's at the point in the community where I genuinely feel like people would rather just timer a life wizard and not deal with it than actually play the game out. And then last place we have fire. Again, I have no idea what is going on here. Why fire is last place when it's like a top 3, top 4 school. I have no idea what the hell is going on. The only theory I could put together is they got so used to playing with like the older free and turning their brain off. Now that you have to think a little bit with like gambiting your dots or whatever, most fires generally just don't know what to do, which is what I said would happen within this update, so you have to think a little more. But I didn't think it was gonna be this bad. Me personally, my fire is still doing great. I haven't lost to like a life wizard or anything in quite some time. Still to this day, if you are a good fire player, the only matchup you lose is the storm and sometimes balance. But even against balance, you got buffed this update with like the new headcount and whatnot, right? Also, Bull got a buff, which is another really OP card that is good against balance. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I have no idea what the heck is going on with this list, y'all. I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if Ratbeard comes out and it says like, yo, I'm deadass just trolling with this, but I kind of feel like he's not. which is kind of the scary part, right? Because a lot of game devs do balance their game around data like this. Like, look at Overwatch or whatever, for example, right? Like, they like to balance around the most popular ranks, which is like gold, or like, I don't know, like sergeant, vet, and Wiz terms. But if that's the case, this does not look good for the future of Wiz, because if they genuinely think Balance, Life, and Fire are like bottom 3, and then like Storm and Ice and Myth are up there, like holy cow, are we ever screwed as a community, y'all. I honestly don't know, y'all. I thought this would be a cool video to make though and react to this, because this is probably the most inaccurate like set of data I've seen like ever on Wiz, and like, I'm still sticking by my opinion where I think Ratbeard is genuinely trolling. Like, this cannot be real. And if Ratbeard is watching this video, maybe he could comment below and be like, no, like I'm dead ass not trolling or something. I don't know. Anyways, let me know your thoughts and feedback in the comments below, y'all. I will see you on the next one. Thank you for watching, take care, and goodbye.